This happened over 4 years ago. I used to live off campus in an apartment that was a few blocks down from my university. On late nights when I was tired from a day of studying, classes, and working, I didn't have plans or simply didn't feel like going out. It was common for me to stay home and play video games in my room. I used to have my full PC set up in the apartment that I brought from my parents' home when I moved in. My favorite games to play were first-person shooters such as Call of Duty, Rainbow Six, Counter-Strike, and so on. The night in question, it was past 10 and I was playing Rainbow Six Siege on my PC with the lights in my room out. I was playing a casual game on the attacking side where I quickly realized there was only one other person using a microphone. A kid on the younger side, not your typical obnoxious douchebag Rainbow Six Siege kid, but a genuinely pretty chill kid who was giving helpful callouts and praise. We struck up a conversation over voice chat about which operators were our favorites to use in the game, and began talking about other shooter games in general. My team ended up winning the match, and after the match ended, the kid and I both agreed we'd stay in the lobby so we could play together in the next match as well. He also friended me on Ubisoft, and I accepted it. Anyways, halfway through the first round of the new match, I could hear the kid talking to someone who was in the background of his microphone. It seemed he wasn't using a push-to-talk feature, meaning that his microphone would basically record any talking from his end and play it automatically in the game voice chat. He seemed to be turning away from his mic and talking to someone else who was in the room with him. I couldn't really make out what was being said, but I wasn't really listening either since I was more focused on playing the game. But at some point I recall hearing loud and clear an older man's voice in the background shout "asshole" and the door slam shut. I asked the kid if he was okay and he said it was just his dad being a dickhead. Nothing else really happened until the second round of the match. I noticed the kid's microphone turn on, but I couldn't hear anything but static from his end at first. Then I began to hear what sounded like dishes breaking and muffled yelling. I heard the kid then shout "stop" multiple times really loudly, and just then I heard a door crash open in his room. I heard heavy footsteps marching towards his microphone, and the kid screamed before. A deafening bang filled my headset, the sound of what was undeniably a shotgun or something like that firing. It was so loud I even ripped the headset off my head just out of pure shock. I stood there staring at the screen for a second just in disbelief. I did pick up on the fact that the kid's mic icon was still appearing in the top right of the screen, meaning his mic was still picking up sound from his end. So I slowly lifted the headset back over my ears. It was a man's gruff breathing, just emitting from the mic. Nothing else, just heavy breathing. And then I saw the notification that he left the game. I sat there in shock for another few seconds. I noticed another one of our teammates typed in the chat, "What the fuck was that?" I didn't respond to him though, I just left the lobby and logged off the game. I didn't really feel like playing anymore. I wasn't sure what to think. Did I just hear a murder? That deafening sound of the gunshot was still echoing in my head. I opened Ubisoft and went to the kid's profile, which said he was offline, meaning his PC must have been turned off. I decided to just shoot him a message asking if he was alright. After that, I headed to bed. Nothing else ever became of that story. The kid never responded to my message, and I still have the kid's account on my Ubisoft friends list. And for about the next year, I still lived in that apartment and avidly played video games. As far as I can tell, I never saw him come online again. I never really told anyone about it, just friends. But it's not exactly the type of thing I bring up to have a laugh about, just because of how downright concerning I find the whole thing. I was checking the news for about the next week after it happened too, but I never saw anything about a father killing his son or anything like that. I'm still not sure what to think. It was a stormy night in December, the most violent thunderstorm we'd had all year, in fact. I was in the 7th grade and I was alone in my room gaming. My sister was in her room and my mom was downstairs making dinner. I was playing a bunch of different games on my PC since I had finished all my homework an hour ago, and I wasn't allowed out on weekdays, a rule I absolutely despised. I was still very into my video games though, and extremely proud of my PC, which I had obtained the parts for and built myself. Anyways, I'd been playing Rocket League for most of the night and had just gotten bored of it, so I decided to hop on some CSGO. For those who don't know, it's an online multiplayer shooter game like COD. I joined in a casual lobby and was playing on the terrorist side on the map Nuke, which also happened to be my favorite map. I quickly realized I had unfortunately been placed in a lobby with at least 4 other players speaking in a foreign language, and of course with dollar store microphones which sounded like their mouths were an inch away from. My ping is always super high because despite my expensive PC, my house's internet was not the greatest, so it was a common occurrence for me to be put in these foreign lobbies with European players who have microphones that could make your eardrums bleed. The ping was probably also something to do with the storm as well that was raging outside. Anyways, after 2 rounds, I realized the team I was playing on was absolutely garbage as well. I was the only one on my team getting kills, and we were losing 0-4. So me being the toxic gamer I am, I got on voice chat and yelled over all these other players speaking to each other in the foreign language that they were terrible at the game, and to uninstall and something along the lines of that. The voice chat went silent for a second, when all of a sudden the text chat began being spammed with message after message from multiple players on my team, all typing what looked like Russian characters. As my eyes scanned the chat, I saw a few English words amongst all the foreign characters that I could make out that were being spammed over and over with each new message. I felt my heart skip a beat and my stomach turning as I realized what they were. Amongst these other characters being spammed in the chat, there were 2 phrases in English: my full name and my home address. So this just happened last week and I'm still extremely on edge about it. I'm not sure whether or not I should be brushing the whole thing off or genuinely concerned, but I'll start from the beginning. I live alone in a 1-story house in a neighborhood where houses are spaced pretty far apart, and I work an office job which is an hour commute from my house. I won't go too into detail about my job, but I'm a manager of a certain team at my company which deals with computer servers and programming. Basically, recently we had a catastrophe of sorts at work, for lack of a better word. Some pesky hackers got into our database and damaged a lot of code, and my team and I have been cleaning up after them for almost a month now, which also means plenty of late shifts for me. The night in question was a Tuesday. I had finally gotten off my extra long shift at work at around 9 p.m. and I got home at around 10 p.m. I ate some leftovers from the fridge and then launched Modern Warfare 2 on my PS4 to grind some multiplayer before I'd hit the hay. Now, I have a microphone, but I rarely interact with anyone in these lobbies just because people can be real jerks sometimes. I've had my fair share of encounters with hot-headed gamers. This one particular game though, there was this one guy on the other team who just wouldn't stop talking trash. I was doing particularly well that night, the best in the lobby, and he was constantly getting on voice chat calling me out by my username, angry because of my kill streak and making fun of me for using sentry guns and calling me by a multitude of choice words. I don't usually let people like that get to me, but this guy was just really getting to me, to be honest. I got on the voice chat and mentioned something about how he runs his mouth a lot for a guy with little to no actual skill. This one really set him off. He was practically screaming over voice chat. I told him to shut up and declared I would be muting him. Right as I opened the scoreboard to do just that, he said something that made my blood run cold. "You'll get what's coming to you, Paul." I stared at the screen in shock for a second. He had said my actual first name. There's no way he could know that. My gamer tag does not have my real name in it. There was virtually no way he could have gotten that information. I left the lobby instantly and shut down my PS4. I knew he had to be trying to scare me. Maybe he was just guessing my name, or was he talking to someone else named Paul? In reality, I knew he had to have been. I take threats very seriously though. I shut all the blinds around my house and made sure my doors were locked before going to bed that night. I woke up to the pitch darkness of my bedroom. I wasn't sure what had awoken me, but I couldn't have been asleep for more than an hour. Then I started to pick up on a strange noise coming from the other side of the room. Some really light scraping noise, barely even audible. It seemed to be coming from the window to the right side of my bed. It stopped after a few seconds and sounded like something unintentional, so I just flipped on my side and tried to get back to bed. Every time I try to fall asleep though, I can never stay comfortable in one position for too long. I was tossing and turning for a few minutes when I heard another sound. It sounded exactly like the scraping noise I heard earlier, except twice as loud this time. I rolled over to face the window, and then screamed at the top of my lungs. Through the darkness on the other side of the window, I could clearly see two hands on the bottom of the window trying to lift it open from the other side. As soon as I screamed, the hands disappeared into the darkness and I heard whoever it was running away through my bushes. Thankfully, all of my windows automatically lock when shut, so there's no way he'd be getting inside. I locked myself in the bathroom and stayed in there for about an hour until I fell back asleep. The next morning I woke at the usual time, 6 a.m., to my alarm going off in my bedroom. I'd have to be at work in an hour and a half. Cautiously, I left the bathroom and walked around the house looking for any sign of a break-in. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary, so I carried out my routine as usual, except for the fact I couldn't stop thinking about what had happened last night. Definitely no way I imagined it. I remembered that guy's threats from the Call of Duty lobby the other night as well, and I couldn't help but wonder if they were somehow connected. As someone who works in computers, I knew the chances of that guy somehow finding my location were slim, but not impossible. I'd seen it done before, people obtaining IPs and using them to find a social media account and other personal info about people online. Like I said, it's been an uneventful week since that happened. I haven't said anything to anyone, really. At the moment, I'm not sure whether those two incidents were related and if I should be genuinely scared for my life right now or not. I'll just see if anything else happens for now, but I really hope nothing does.